Hi, my name is Phil Lieberman. I'm president of Lieberman Software Corporation. We're a company located in Los Angeles, California, and also in Austin, Texas. Today, what I'd like to do is talk about 5 or so things that IT administrators do that are awfully bad. But what we're going to do is also talk about some of the ways that these things can be fixed. So, in no particular order, let's go ahead and start hitting some of these items. So, item number 1. Do your IT administrators set all of their machines to the same password? That's a real big no-no. So, why is that a big no-no? Well, if one of the machines gets compromised, then all of the machines can get compromised. So that's kind of a bad situation. So what's the solution to that? Randomize them. Make it so that every machine has a different password. So, problem number 2. Do you do this? Do you put all of the passwords for all of your machines on a spreadsheet? Okay, well, I can kind of understand why you might want to do that, but do you then take that spreadsheet and then put it out on a public share within your company? Oh, God. Okay, well, let's think about that for a minute. If everybody sees the spreadsheet and everybody has access to everything, kind of not a good idea, because then it opens up this issue that auditors like to know about. It's this thing called attribution. So if everybody knows the password, and let's say, for example, somebody does something bad, who is it who did that? You look at the audit record, everybody knows the password, nobody knows who did it, not a good idea. So this brings up the question, how do you solve the password issue of the spreadsheets? Well, okay, one solution is you take the spreadsheet and you check it out and you check it in. Let's see. Not such a good idea. The problem with that is that everybody sees the same set of secrets that are in that. So what's a better idea of how to solve it? Well, maybe take those spreadsheets and put them in a relational database where each row of that database would be secured and checked out individually. So what's the advantage of that? Before somebody can see a row of a specific spreadsheet, they have to check it out, and it also alerts other people that this secret is now being shared. Now, this brings up a couple of other interesting questions about these types of secrets or passwords, and that is, when do they get changed? Well, that really depends on the nature of the data itself of what's on that spreadsheet. If it's a password that's used on something like a domain or a root account or an administrator account, you may be able to automate the life cycle of that. That is, somebody gets the account, they use it for some period of time, and then say after 2 hours or 3 hours, that password gets changed. Well, so let's talk about password changes for a moment, and let's talk about some other bad habits. So here's a question, another question to ask you. In your company, do you have this situation where IT doesn't change their passwords anymore for things like service accounts? Did they say things like this? You know, the last time we changed that password, it caused an outage. And then everybody goes, yeah, I remember that. Well, we shouldn't be changing passwords because that causes outages. So how did those outages occur, and why is it that you're not changing passwords anymore? I mean, how does this all tie together? Well, okay, let's think about this a moment. What exactly happened the last time that you did this? Well, probably, let's say you had a password, you changed it, and there were 4 machines that were using that. You went in and you changed those 4. And most of the time that worked, but every once in a while it doesn't. And why didn't it? Well, in one case, on one of those 4 machines, you typed it in wrong. Well, that's not good, because now it's going to be using the wrong password. It's going to try to log on a bunch of times, and the account gets locked out, and then the rest of the machines go down because they don't have access. Okay, so one solution to that is you might want to script that. That's one solution. That can make it a programmatic solution. Good, because computers generally don't make mistakes, generally speaking. But now there's kind of another interesting problem with that script that we just talked about. Let's say you thought you had 4 machines, but it turns out that somebody else set up 2 more machines. Now you've changed them on the 4 machines with your little program, but those other 2 machines are now using the old password and you didn't know about those other machines. So what you need to solve this problem is you need to have a way of auto-discovering those machines and then crawling through those machines to find the credentials themselves and then correlate all this information together. Or if you don't have this technology, you've got to get the people who are putting machines up and setting credentials together with the people who are responsible for changing those credentials so that they all work together. So that's another case. So let's talk about a couple of other interesting issues. So, are you one of those people who installs appliances? You install things like lights out cards, and they all come with this great built-in credential. It's great. You find out you've got an HP box or a Cisco box or a Dell box, and you need access to it. So you go on the public internet and you put in the name of the device and it gives you that default credential that came with the factory. Isn't that great? Now imagine you've got 1,000 servers and they all have the same built-in account for your Dell server. It would be Calvin as the password and the account is root. That's wonderful. So now anybody can get root level access to your console on any machine. And oh, by the way, those switches you installed that were Linksys or some other brand, you go onto the internet, you find those credentials too. So what's this other bad IT habit? It's called putting stuff in production with a factory password everywhere and not changing it. So that's not a good thing. Again, you need a good inventory of the machines and you need to have some way of changing it. Now most of the boxes are SSH compatible, so you can in fact write scripts to deal with that or also use some sort of commercial solution to solve this problem too. So the other issue about IT admins and bad habits is this idea of these factory defaults in these devices that are being shipped. So all in all, if you take a look at today's environment, there's a lot of different places where credentials are being used. Oh, one last one, just for fun. Since a lot of you are going and creating virtual cloud environments or virtualized environments, consider for a moment when you go and check out or create a new VM that came from the library. Now this library is great. You've got these machines, they're beautiful, they've got everything built into them. You've got their database there, you've got your middleware stack, you've got your web server. It's great. You pull it out of the library, you set some of the IP addresses on them, and off this goes out on the network. Except there's one little problem. That library image that you're using and everybody else is using has the same credentials built into it. So when you take library images out of your VM library, it's a really good idea to crawl through that stack and actually randomize the credentials that are being used in your image. So in fact you have nothing common between your images and somebody else's images, which would give a hacker or an insider the ability to go from one machine to the other due to the fact that there was some commonality between these different images. So that's my 5 or so different things that the IT administrator should take a look at, and I wish you the best of luck. Take care.